everyone, today's video is a book haul, and as you may know, I was away on holiday for a little bit and I bought some books in that time. My parents came over from New Zealand and we were travelling around the UK a bit, which meant that we had a car, which is great because usually when I'm travelling by train and I have to carry all the things that I have, so book buying is kind of out of the question. The first one was a proof copy. This is Hyde by Matthew Griffin, and I actually have read this. I listened to the audiobook. And I was sadly disappointed by it, actually. I will talk about it in a wrap-up, but it was compared to A Place Called Winter, which is why I was really interested in it. So this is another one that I got for free, and this one was through the Christmas conference at work. So this is Odd Dog Out by Rob Biddulph, and he is a children's book writer. This is about a world where everyone is a Dachshund, and we have this lovely illustration here of all of the Dachshunds just doing their thing, all essentially doing the same thing. But wait, look closer. Can you see one dog behaving differently? Someone on this busy street is dancing to a different beat. And I just think that's adorable, and it's all about being yourself and being different. It's great. I think this would make a wonderful present for any child in your life. Next up was a second-hand book that I got locally, and this is The Great Naturalists, which is a Thames and Hudson title, edited by Robert Huxley. And as always with Thames and Hudson books, this is really, really beautiful. The paper quality is really nice, and you've got great images throughout. I love stuff like this. I love illustrations that were done before photographs came along. Botanical illustrations and animal illustrations. And I think they're really interesting because they have to be a certain way, because unlike photography, you can't just take a picture. You have to, as an artist drawing something realistically, you have to pay a lot of attention to these details, and it's interesting to see how different artists kind of render those things and the similarities between them. Anyway, it's rather a lovely book, and it was only a couple of pounds. With the whole moving house thing, I wanted to buy myself a moving in present, because why not? A housewarming present, if you like. And this is, of course, a book, which is Making Your House a Home. And I'm very interested in interior design, and especially now I've got my own space to work with. And yeah, this is, again, very beautiful, very pictorial, lots of great sort of infographic type elements, as well as photography, and it sort of talks about different seasons, and you've got autumn there, very appropriate for the moment, and about sort of creating your own style within a space. Another big book is this one here, which is the Harry Potter Artifact Vault, which I haven't actually opened yet. I bought it, and then life was so busy that I haven't actually opened the wrapping. So let's do that now, and I can show you some of the pictures. This is like Christmas. This is based on the films, and it's all the kind of material stuff within the Harry Potter world. And if you've been to any of the Wizarding World exhibitions, like the Warner Brothers Studios in Watford, then you'll recognise some of this stuff. But it's all the graphic design and the material things. You've got food and all the stuff from the Yule Ball, and this is just such a wonderful book, and I'm a real nerd for all these things, all these little details, and a lot of these things wouldn't have actually made it into the film, as in into many shots at all, some of them not at all. So it's wonderful to see all that work that was put in a final book, rather than them just being lost. One of my favourite parts of the Warner Brothers tour was seeing the pictures, these portraits of witches and wizards, which you see throughout Hogwarts. You've got the lovely one of Dumbledore there. And seeing how these compare to art history in the Muggle world, if you like. You can see a lot of similarities between and references to other paintings. This one, for instance, looks rather a lot like a painting of Mary Shelley. And a lot of these are portraits of people who worked on the Harry Potter books. So that's very cool. The other illustrated book that I got, this one I have been very, very excited about for a very long time. This is the limited edition of Botanicum, which is illustrated by Katie Scott, who did the beautiful illustrations to Animalium, which is one of my favourite large-scale books like this. She takes lots of elements of things that I'm really interested in as well, and turns them into something that looks quite contemporary. So I'll show you what I mean. So this is one of the pages here. This is wildflowers, and so you have a bit of a blurb about flowers, and there's a key down the bottom to what the actual plants here are, and the illustrations themselves are there, and they're all sort of twisted into this beautiful composition. And I think that's one of the most wonderful things about this, is how these plants are kind of warped. And that's of course something that you can do with illustration, which you can't really do with photography so well unless you Photoshop. And it's just to fill in that space, and it's just, the compositions are just fantastic. Her use of colour is also just wonderful. And this was done in association with Kew Gardens, which is one of my favourite places in London. I did a whole vlog there back in the spring. So I will link that down below if you're interested in that, because I did some of my own drawings on that trip, and they're sort of incorporated into the video. But yes, I was very excited about this, and yeah, so happy to have my hands on it. So this book here I found in a little secondhand bookshop in Lyme Regis. This is a Jeanette Winterson book called Art and Lies, and it's a collection of essays. I always enjoy Jeanette Winterson too, so I couldn't really leave this one there. This is also one that I got from the Christmas conference, and will be probably one of the big titles for Christmas because it's Neil Gaiman, and this is another of his collaborations with the wonderful Chris Riddell, and this is Odd and the Frost Giants, which is a retelling of a Norse myth about a boy called Odd. And so there are lots of familiar characters in this, and I mean, just the design of it is absolutely stunning. That is the front cover, but when we open it up, I love books with cutouts like this. Die cuts are not used enough in my opinion, but that's probably because they're very expensive to produce. Cool end papers on both ends, and of course wonderful illustrations. So these final few books are books that I got from my grandfather's house, and my grandfather is currently in the process of clearing out quite a lot of stuff from his home, and there were some books that I was interested in. Of course there were some books I was interested in, and because I love old books and weird designs and things. So for starters, there's a little collection of Wordsworth poetry, and what makes these really special is the family connection. So there's a wee inscription inside which was written to my grandmother. The next two books were also given to my grandmother, and these are books about nature. And so we've got Wayside Woodland Blossoms and Wayside and Woodland Trees. So the inscription says, "To Alice with love for Christmas, 1940. So yeah, these were my grandmother's, and obviously she was given them back in the early 40s, and I just think they're really very beautiful, and of course have that special connection to my family as well. There's also this one here, and I love the old Pelican books. These are obviously like the Orange Penguin ones, but the Pelican books were for non-fiction. So this is Geology in the Service of Man by W.G. Fernside and O.M.B. Bowman, and mostly for design purposes. I don't imagine that I will be reading this. I imagine a lot of this is fairly out of date by now as well, but yeah, it's just a lovely thing. So this final one was just a really special find, and I was very excited to come across this. It's a copy of Jane Eyre. It has got an inscription inside which says, "Leven Higher Grade School Prize awarded to Harriet Kennedy for English, and the session is 1911 to 12. And as an English student, I studied English at university, and obviously as a lover of books, having this, which was my great-grandmother's, is very, very special. That's the thing about books, is that they do last surprisingly well. This is something that you're never going to get with ebooks. You're never going to get that sort of legacy. And it's not like somebody in 100 years' time is going to pick up my copy of some ebook. Well, it doesn't seem likely. And of course, ebooks don't have these kind of little personal details and inscriptions and things. So I think that's something that's really special about the physical book that often gets overlooked. I wanted to share that and share the little warm fuzzies about books, because we're here because we love books, right? So that's my slightly eclectic collection of books that I have acquired over the past couple of months. I hope you have enjoyed this little book haul. I mean, it wasn't actually so little, there were quite a few books in there. But yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye! Here we have 2 fantasy novels that are categorised quite differently in bookshops.